Hi, I'm Rosemary Clee, the Executive Director for the Bergen Newbridge Medical Center Foundation, New Jersey's largest not-for-profit hospital, and the sponsor of In the Know at Row, an informative conversation with leading healthcare leaders on important health topics. Today I am joined by Thomas Amitrano. We will look into how nursing is changing and how that's affecting patient care. Thomas Amitrano is the Chief Nursing Officer and Vice President of Patient Care Services at Bergen Newbridge Medical Center. Tom has been a nurse for more than 40 years, and with 20 of those years involved in middle and upper management, and 9 of them at the executive level for Bergen Newbridge Medical Center. Tom received his BS in education from Rhode Island College, BSN and MPA from Fairleigh Dickinson University. He began his career as a critical care nurse, specializing in caring for patients with end-stage renal disease. He holds the distinction of being the first nurse at the medical center to be selected as the hospital's Gold Heart of Distinction Nursing Award recipient for service excellence. Tom is the co-chair of the Bergen Newbridge Medical Center vaccination program, which operates under his license. He is a member of the ANA and ONENJ and the past president of New Jersey Renal Administrators Association. Tom also served as the vice president of the Governor's Task Force on ESRD in New Jersey. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you for speaking with me today.
The roles of nurses have changed and expanded a lot in the recent years. Nurses are highly specialized. They have branched out into new areas of medicine. Still, nurses remain on the front lines of patient care. They communicate with doctors, relay patient wishes, and address family concerns. Over a year into COVID, what changes in the field have you seen since the pandemic started?
Great question, Rosemary. This has been some year. In the past year, we have seen nurses exemplify what it means to be caregivers at the bedside. The men and women who work at Bergen Newbridge Medical Center, as well as throughout the world, have really risen to the challenge that has been presented to us by a pandemic. No generation before us has known this like we do. You would have to go back 100 years to find a generation that really went through a pandemic the way we are now. We have had to become resourceful in every possible area. The nurses have been challenged to think in a different way, to act in a different way, to be really the caregivers that in a moment's notice pivot between one way of doing something and another way. It has been something we're not quite taught in nursing school. Most of the classes in nursing school are didactic. Most of the practice in nursing school is very prescriptive. When you get out into the field, you're really looking at what would you do in a day-to-day situation? And for us this year, day-to-day has truly changed. What you left in the end of one day was not what you went back to the next day. So I think we've seen changes in technology, changes in the way we practice. Certainly changes in medical practice has affected the way we as nurses practice. It has just been remarkable how we have grown and, like the phoenix, risen from the ashes to really become a very different nurse than we were before we went into the pandemic.
So when we think of nursing and we think of the emergency and acute care piece, can you give us an overview of different nursing career opportunities?
Absolutely. Nursing is one of those professions that spans a lifetime. You look at the first person who handles a child is a nurse. The last person who handles an adult is a nurse. So there is many places that we can go. You can travel as a nurse. You can work stable as a nurse. You can be an OBGYN nurse, a pediatric nurse. You can deal with patients who are in critical care. You can take care of residents in long-term care. So there are many opportunities. A nurse today has far more opportunities than they did in the past because you are able to progress and change throughout your profession. It used to be that a nurse who entered one area of nursing kind of stayed there for most of their career. Now nurses, especially the newer generation, see nursing as in one field as a temporary way of working and then progress, change, and move on. In each progression and move, there's more experience to gain and more reward to get, I think. I think it's just one of those things where, you always look at the challenge, you always look at the opportunity, and you can move with fluidity between one type of nursing and the other type of nursing. So it's a great time to really be a nurse who's interested in progressing in the field.
So what education and certification is required to become a registered nurse?
Again, good question. You can be in the day, you could have gone to a hospital program and gotten a diploma. Nowadays, you can go to a 2-year community college and get an associate's degree, a 4-year college and get a bachelor's degree, and then progress from there to a master's and up to a doctorate in nursing practice or a PhD to do education. So certainly education is a progression as well in the field. You are able to move at your pace and as you see fit. Nursing is a lifelong career, and sometimes in the progression of life, things happen like marriage and children and many different things. So you can go for education in 2 years. When you're ready, go on for 4 years. When you're ready, go back to school for your master's. So you continually grow in education. Certifications, once you are a nurse, many of the particular areas that you are working in allow for certification. You can be certified in wound care if you're working with long-term care residents. You can be certified in critical care, certified in the OR, certified as a critical care nurse, certified in renal disease. So many certifications. The nice thing about certification is it does keep you very active. You are required to have a certain number of education credits that you have to get through the couple of years in between certification. So it keeps you very fresh and very active in the field.
So as you're growing in the field and your career is growing, how easy is it to make that transition between one area of specialty to another?
I'd say it's fairly easy in the sense that if you have the stick-to-itiveness that it takes to do that, I've seen behavioral health nurses become ER nurses. They just have the stick-to-itiveness. They go into the ER. They use the sponge technique. Every day they take in what they can, and you see them progress. You see how the behavioral health never leaves. They just incorporate that into the critical care that they're giving in the ED. Same thing with the nurse who's in med-surg. He or she can go to the OR and become an OR nurse or a PACU nurse. You never see them leave the fundamentals of med-surg nursing. They bring that with them to the OR and the PACU. So if you have the desire and you have the will to learn a new profession, because it is within nursing a new profession, a new way of doing things, the world is open to you. Long-term care is very different than acute, is very different than behavioral health. But through it all, the fundamentals of nursing don't change. They are the same, whether it's the resident in long-term care, the patient in behavioral health, or the patient in acute.
So going with that, what are some of the traits that you look for when hiring a new nursing team?
Oh gosh, I think for me, it's amazing to see some of the folks that are coming out of nursing school now. It it may be second careers for some of them, maybe first careers for some of them. I think, it used to be that you were looking for somebody who really was coming out and looking for something that's going to be long-lived. You would ask what they want to do in 5 years, what they want to do in 10 years. Well, I want to be the same nurse. Now I think you see a person coming out with the desire to really learn and move on. So it's very exciting to see the newer nurses come through. I think they bring a different sense to the profession. I really look for somebody who is dedicated to caring at the bedside. That's important. I think that whether you are a nurse at the bedside or have a doctorate in nursing practice, you have got to have the undying desire to care for patients, whether that's the resident of long-term care, the patient in acute or behavioral health. You have to have that desire. That's something that you can't develop the desire. It has to be innate. It's really something that you have to have somewhere in you to bring out and to really searching for words is to really feed that desire and make it grow more.
So what do you think the field will look like in 5 years? I mean, it's changed so much since, you started. What do you think it'll look like in 5 years?
Wow, that's, looking into a crystal ball. It's going to get more technology heavy than it has been. I think the field of medicine in general, whether that is for physicians or nurses, we are going more and more into technology. And I think that we're going to look at how we treat patients is going to change. What I hope doesn't change is the hands-on. There is no way we can replace the warmth of a hand.
That's true.
So it's just, we can change the technology all we want, and we can look at how we give medications is different today, how we maybe do post-op is different today, but you can't change the caring that needs to be done. I've seen the progression from where it's gone from not at all technological to the technology that we have today, and I think it's going to get more technologically heavy as we go forward. I think that's certainly, look at the way nurses are learning today. Nurses learn in a sim lab in many cases, where they simulate care for patients. That is a good thing because it gives them the opportunity to, quote unquote, care for a patient that is not a patient, and they can get the practice part out before they actually bring it to the field. So that's one of the technological changes that has been made over time, and I think it's just the beginning of how we will see things progress.
Makes sense, it does. So, why did you become a nurse?
Oof, that's a trip down memory lane. First of all, nursing, as you know, is a second career for me. I have my degree in education as well. If you go back 40 years, I didn't have the opportunity to go to nursing school when I wanted to, because men were not allowed in the nursing school in the area. There were select few nursing schools for men. Most nursing schools were for female only. Even at the college level, the college I went to had a very large education department and a very large nursing department. Most of my friends were doing a dual degree, education and nursing, and it was very clear that I could not get into the nursing program, not for want, not for desire, and not for my aptitude. I certainly was able to score high on everything that I needed to score on. It was just a matter of men were not allowed in the program. It was not until I went back for my baccalaureate that I had to still look for a program that was accepting men. And back when I graduated, there were 82 of us in my graduation class. 2 of us were men. The other, obviously, were female. So it was a very gender-specific profession at the time. But again, nursing is not gender-specific.
I would think so.
I keep saying that it is innate to care. It is human to care. It's not male. It's not female. It is human. And I think that when you have that desire to care, that's what brings you to nursing. I didn't have a mom who was a nurse. I didn't have a grandmother who was a nurse. Didn't have an aunt who was a nurse. It was just a desire to go into nursing because there is that innate, I can do more than educate. There are times in my career I actually thought, give me 50 kids and I'll do that. It'll be a lot easier than what I'm doing now. But that being said, I don't regret my decision at all. I think that it was the right decision. I was afforded the opportunity to move throughout nursing. Obviously started in critical care, kind of went backwards into med surg, and then found a specialty in end-stage renal disease. Worked in that for a long time. You will see that through the progression of the career, the time has changed. I feel as though, for me, I went to school and I became a nurse in the perfect generation. I learned from women who truly learned nursing with no bells, no whistles. They cared for patients when I look at how it was, with very little. Yet I had to pick up all the technology of today. So it really was the perfect generation. I've kind of spanned from, as I tell the young nurses all the time, when Florence Nightingale and I went to school, it was a long time ago, but I've seen the progression, and it's been a good progression. So, back to your question, why? I think it was just to care. It just comes down to wanting to care for another person. And again, it is not, let me say it again, it is not gender specific. It has a male doesn't care any better or worse than a female cares. Caring is human. So that's, in a brief answer, that's why.
So any advice you would give to someone considered choosing nursing as a career?
Go with it. It's if you've considered it, you've done the soul searching necessary to say, can I care? Can I be that person who is at the bedside when you're born and at the bedside when you leave? Can I be that person who helps make someone feel better? And sometimes feeling better is not necessarily only relieving pain. It's making them feel better about themselves. For example, the behavioral health nurse, it's making them feel more comfortable. If you're the acute care nurse, it's making them feel like this is home if you are in long-term care. So it kind of spans the 3 divisions that we have here. And the advice would be to go with the feeling and explore the possibilities that are out there, because there are many, many possibilities that we can have as nurses today.
So what are some of the unique pieces that we offer here at Bergen Newbridge Medical Center?
We are unique. I think that we have a beautiful blend. We see patients throughout a continuum of care. Our patients come to us in the behavioral health division at the age of 5. Our patients become our residents when they go into the long-term care division. So we see folks through the continuum from a very early age through a senior age. And I think that there are many opportunities. You can go into med-surg, you can go into behavioral health, long-term care. Within med-surg, ICU, you can go to the OR, PACU. You can be a nurse who is in quality. You can be a nurse who is in case management. There are many opportunities. Not every nurse has to be at the bedside. And that's where the uniqueness of nursing is. If you don't want to do the bedside forever, there are other opportunities. There's management. There is, again, case management. There's quality. There's PACU, ICU, behavioral health. Even within behavioral health, there's geropsych. There is adolescent and child psychiatry. There are many, many opportunities as a place that is founded in caring for those folks who were not cared for by society. Remember back our history, we were founded as an isolation hospital. It's where polio and TB went because they could not be cared by society. In many cases, we have patients here who still need to be cared for. So we continue that history even today, and the opportunities are endless. I have nurses request to go from long-term care to behavioral health to acute to long-term care. So we do afford that opportunity here, all within one system. And I think that that's the uniqueness of what we offer.
So I want to thank you, Tom, for sharing your passion and for talking to me today. And I want to wish you a happy Nurses Month now. I understand that the ANA is celebrating you, the nurses, for a whole month. And if you want to learn more about Bergen Newbridge Medical Center and some of the career opportunities, please visit our website. And if you'd like to support our foundation, please visit our website at newbridgehealth.org. And thank you again, Tom, for taking the time to speak to us.
Rosemary, I'd like to thank you. And just as a way of ending, if you will, I really do want to give a shout out to our nurses here. I think that the nurses that we have exemplify what it means to pivot, what it means to come to work every day with true dedication to the residents and the patients that we have here. This, as I said before, has been a remarkable year. We have seen change like no other generation has seen, except 100 years ago generation. We have really risen to that. The nurses have every day proven that their care for the patient is deep-rooted in their being. So again, not only to nurses everywhere, but especially here, a good Happy Nurses Week. For Nurses Month this year, Happy Nurses Week this particular week. So thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you. Take care, Tom. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in.